guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I got an email that was sent from a subscriber. It's from a guy, he is 60 years old, and he shares his story how when he was younger, like the majority of us, he made lots of mistakes. He was that nice guy who girls put in the friend zone, girls took advantage of, girls just abruptly ditched, that type of thing. And eventually goes through enough bad experiences that he learns the hard way, but he's forever changed. He's essentially R-pilled, and that has helped him, has benefited him later in life, in particular with his marriage. And now he's been happily married for 30 years, good life and all that, and some of the gals have done him wrong. He got to have the last laugh because, they always come back, or they usually put on 200 pounds or something like that. And they'll be going to go over here, guys, really hitting home that, like him, all of us, the majority of us, were a lot like him. We all made mistakes when we were younger, didn't know any better, learned the hard way. And I'll be very going to show you that, guys, you can go through that and learn and improve and get better and have a good life. You just got to, unfortunately, most of us have to learn the hard way, which is why I share these stories that we hopefully don't have to learn the hard way and not have to suffer to learn. So, it says here, hello SSM. I'm a subscriber to all your great channels. I sometimes comment on your YouTube channel, and you responded wanting to hear more details of when I dated a single mom twice. Well, my story starts way before then, but I will try to be brief. Yeah, in our story here, he dates a couple single moms, and he learns, back then, no different than as it is now. I'm 60 years young now and learned many life lessons along the way, and for reference, you can call me Nelson. I'm currently married for 30 years now and have 2 sons. I didn't get married until I was 30 years old, and my wife is 4 years younger than me. Good. Thank the Lord. You wait till you're 30. That's a good age. And frankly, that's good because you had a lot of learning to do up until that point. In high school, I was a shy, nerdy kid that had many crushes that I never pursued. But I did have some girls that did like me. But I was not interested in them, mostly due to their size. I'm 6'1" and on the thin side. I was lucky enough to ask a pretty gal, Denise, to the prom who was a friend, and yes, I had many girls who were just friends, and she said yes. She and I had a good time, and we both shared our first kiss. It was nothing special, just a peck on the lips. A few weeks after the prom, I did ask her out on a date, and was rejected with the excuse that she already had plans for the foreseeable future. In other words, she needed a date for the prom. You need a date for the prom. Okay, I'll go with you. Okay, in the moment, she felt like it kissed you. So she can say she kissed somebody on her prom. And that was it. But you went to the prom and you got your kiss. You had progress. Well, about 10 years later, I heard that she had married and was already divorced, which oddly made me feel good for some reason. Whatever. In community college, after high school, I was there to find a career, and I liked to end up working in an architectural firm. The firm had lots of female employees, and I did ask one of them and was rejected again. Smack! Don't date or ask out your coworkers. I know you didn't know back then, but I can make that clear. It's not worth it, guys. Well, there was a single mom, Dawn, that worked in the front office as a secretary who was pretty and had a nice chest. We spoke sometimes, but I didn't pursue her at the time. Well, one evening, I received a phone call from Dawn, and I had wondered how she got my phone number since I never gave it to her. She told me that she went through the phone book calling all the phone numbers with my last name. Dude, that's some serious persistence. So either you can take that as a good thing that she really liked you and was really pursuing you, or a little creepy like, holy crap. And by the way, notice he said phone book. To everybody under 30 years old, yes, back then we had to use an actual book to look up people's numbers. Well, it says here, this really impressed me at the time that she was chasing after me instead of the other way around. Well, when I picked her up for our date, I found that she lived with her mom, who was also divorced, probably a red flag. Yeah, so this chick is your coworker. She was stalking you in the phone book, but she was persistent. Single mom. And she's living with her mom, and her mom's divorced. You can see where this would go. So we went out to dinner and then to a bar that she knew of. I noticed right away that many people at the bar knew her. I had a horrible time since she was mostly hanging out with her friends. We did dance and talk a bit when she could pull herself away. Yeah, that's rude. if you're on a date with her, she's supposed to be there hanging out with you, not dancing with other people and talking to other people, and you just sitting there at the table like a good boy and ignoring you. I would have walked. I have a feeling that she went there, it sounds almost like to maybe make somebody jealous, because if she was really into you, she would have been in a quiet place being able to get closer to you, not be there and ignore you. It's almost like she brought you there just to, maybe make somebody jealous or whatever. After that, we picked up her son, who was maybe 1 year old, and whose father was in jail, another red flag. We did make out a little bit before I went home, exhausted and passed out in bed. Well, the following Monday, she did not show up for work, so I called her and found that she was sick. Well, the simp in me came out big time and sent her flowers. You sent her flowers? Smack after how she was treating you at the bar? Luckily, very few people I work with knew, and we went out on a date since we didn't speak much at work. Well, when she finally came back to work, she walked over to my window that faced the parking lot and told me that her new boyfriend was coming to pick her up at work. New boyfriend? Didn't you just go out last week? Let's go back to the point about the bar when she was ignoring you and talking to everybody else. I'm convinced was that guy there? Probably. She was using you, man. I'm sorry, but that's what they do. This is why you never feel bad for women, guys. This is why you never feel bad when you break up with them, because they got no problem using you, breaking up with you, friend zoning you, taking advantage right here. Well, that shocked me, but since it was just one day, it wasn't a huge letdown. Just more embarrassing since some of my work friends knew about the date. Whatever, it happens. If you act okay with it, then most people will act okay with it. Well, occasionally after work, a group of us would go to a nearby bar just to hang out. Then one day Dawn was there, and she came over to flirt with me and was acting all nice, wanting me to dance with her. This time I got to reject her in front of a bunch of people from work, and that felt really good. I did have a few friends with benefits back then, which never led to anything serious, though. Well, hey, you got to reject her. I'm sure that did feel good. And that probably really burned her ego. At university, after working for a few years, it was time to get my 4-year degree. So I went out of state to an out-of-state university where I didn't know anyone and was quite the climate change for me. I made friends fairly easily, both male and female. One of the females was very pretty with an athletic build who we will call Robin. I and others wanted to be more than friends with her, but she'd of course put me in the friend zone, even though she didn't have a boyfriend at the time and we were still friends. We did hang out a lot, went on trips, and I even met her parents. She even lived with me for a short time over the summer break, separate bedrooms of course. Okay, here we go. Ready? Smack, smack, smack. Why am I smacking you? Because you like this girl. She wasn't interested, but you still decided to be friends with her and hang out with her and meet her parents and even have her live with you. I'm willing to bet you she probably wasn't paying her fair share and you were probably hoping to get that chance to get with her. This is what happens. You like a girl, you ask her out, she turns you down, you don't be her buddy. That's what guys do. They don't know any better. I know you know this now from experience and all, but right there, guys. Well, one weekend, the four of us went out to the bars, 2 male, 2 female, and I was the designated driver. We ended up back at my male friend's apartment to finish off the night. He had a roommate named Chad, who had a long-distance girlfriend. Well, they ended up staying overnight since they were all drunk while I went back to my apartment. The next day, I heard that my friend that Robin had hooked up with Chad, spending the entire night in his bed. Well, that really hurt me, but it also changed me and made me realize that we would never get together as a couple and that I no longer even wanted to. Well, man, you had to see it right then and there. And see, this is decades ago, guys. Does this sound like something that could happen today? Of course, because human nature is the same. He's being like her best buddy, hanging out with her all the time, meeting her parents. You probably met her parents on purpose to have them say to her, Nelson here is such a great guy, you should go out with him. And letting her bunk with you and stay at the apartment one summer or something like that, showing you were such a good guy. Where'd that get you with her? Nowhere. Meanwhile, just one night out and with some friends, she meets the roommate and she's hooking up with him even though he has a girlfriend. See? Because I guarantee this Chad character, behaved like a Chad and he was banging her. See? Again, this is why you don't feel bad for women. And also, I might add, don't be the guy in the friend zone. Guys, you guys let yourself be in the friend zone. See, guys, all these mistakes, this is how people learn. You know? Well, shortly after this, in the early 90s, is when I met a girl that lived in the same apartment complex as me. We will call her Jessica. Oh, we know where this is going. And oh, by the way, smack. Don't shit where you eat. Don't date a girl in the same apartment complex. That's not going to go well if things don't go well. She was a divorced single mom. Smack. Dude, you really got a thing for the single MOMs. This is probably just the low-hanging fruit in your eyes. With a 5-year-old daughter. We started dating and hanging out together, including the daughter. Jessica wasn't the prettiest gal around, but she had a great body and almost wanted the you-know-what as much as I did, which was all the time. Well, how do you think her daughter came to be in existence? Because she liked to hook up. Okay, at least you were getting laid out of this whole thing, but thank God you wore protection. Well, she did have a jealous side that would come out from time to time, especially due to my female friends. She told me that in high school she was asked out to homecoming dance as a joke, which traumatized her when her date was with some other girl. Ah, that's terrible. That would mess you up, but you gotta let that shit go. After graduation, I started to work right away and bought my first house that was a bit of a fixer-upper. About a year later, my parents came to visit and they met Jessica and her daughter, and all seemed good. Well, one day my parents were leaving and we invited Jessica and her daughter over for lunch at my house before I would take them to the airport later that day. Well, when they didn't show up, I called Jessica and she told me that they were on the way. And half an hour passed and still no Jessica, so I called once again and was told they were on the way again. Well, they never showed up, which left me embarrassed in front of my parents and wondering what the heck went wrong. I never did hear back from Jessica ever again, and I wasn't about to reach out since my mind I was done. Holy crap. Another one. Just tossed them away like garbage. Clearly, Jessica, maybe the dad got out of prison. Well, that's the other girl. That's the other girl from earlier, my bad. Maybe Jessica found somebody else. Maybe the baby daddy came back in the picture. Who knows? But just like that, you see how she just threw away this guy like garbage and made him look like a fool in front of his parents? But at the end of the day, we can argue she did you a favor because you didn't end up with her. Could have been way worse. Again, guys, see how they can just toss a guy away like a piece of garbage? This is why you don't act like the White Knight, the Captain Saver. You know what? You take care of you. Well, don't worry, guys. He's now learning through these bad experiences. Well, a few months after the breakup with Jessica, I started looking for other ways to meet girls. Well, clearly you're meeting the wrong ones at your work, at your apartment complex. Not a good way to go. It was the mid-90s at the time, so no real dating sites were around, but they did have dating ads in event type of papers. I placed an ad and got a few calls that were voicemails through the ad site. Some I knew right away that it was not going to be a good match from the awkward conversations when we did talk on the phone. Well, one of them was good, and we talked for a few hours before we went on our first date. Well, sooner or later you're going to have a conversation with one that doesn't seem nuts and you could maybe go out with. Well, we dated for around 2 years before she moved in, and we got engaged about 6 months after that. Smack. A little soon, but okay. At least we dated 2 years before we moved in with her. Well, we have been married now for 30 years. And we had some issues, mostly about finances on her end, and we almost got divorced because of it. This was a wake-up call for her, and it really hit her when I had the divorce conversation with her. Our marriage was much better after that, and I think partly due to the fact I was willing to divorce her. Ding, ding, ding. There you go. Our guy learned from his bad experiences. When she was being a bonehead with money, as not all, but a heck of a lot of women are, he laid down the law. And I've been saying this since the beginning, guys. Women have to know that, upon you setting boundaries, of course, that if they push you too far, they cross the line at your boundaries, you're willing to walk. Even if you get crucified in the divorce, you're going to walk. You're not going to put up with it. And right here. And one of the biggest problems in marriages is money, finances. It's rare you find two people that are 100% eye to eye, but it needs to be close, But I'm glad you did that, and that's why your marriage worked, because you laid down the law and she learned. Don't piss you off. Well, as for Jessica, she did send me a Valentine's Day card about 1 year after I was married. No apology, just wanting me to give her a call, which I never did. See, they always come back, guys. Just like that. And again, no apology. She just disappeared. Nope, no apology. And she wanted you to call her, because in her mind, she's such a catch. Yeah, right. Also, I ran into Robin about 15 years ago, since we live in the same town, but we just ignored each other. She put on a lot of weight. I did look her up and found out that she never got married, but she did have her own business that was very successful. I guess that her standards were too high, and the Chads just wanted to use her and then toss her out. Hey, her loss, she could have had you. You were a good guy, but, nope, wasn't interested. Now she's a fat ass. It's good that she obviously has a successful business because she needs to have the income to buy all that truckloads of food to feed her big ass. So overall, life is good once I move past all the speed bumps that life throws at all of us. Thank you, SSM. Keep up the good work. Well, bro, good for you. I appreciate you writing and sharing your story. Your story is one of the most realistic ones that we can all agree with on this, because your story could have been anybody watching this, because the majority of us don't start off like the Chads. We certainly wish we could, but although most of us wouldn't want to end up like the Chads do, but we had to learn by making mistakes. I made plenty. I learned the hard way. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have the internet until 1997. I certainly wasn't seeing material like this back then. So, like the rest of us, you learn the hard way. And I think for every experience, well, over time you got wiser. And finally, by the time you met your wife, you made enough mistakes. And I'm willing to bet you that if you didn't have these bad experiences where you were taken advantage of and used and ditched and friend zoned and all that, and shown just how you can just be treated that way, you probably wouldn't have had the balls to make it clear to your wife that her bad spending habits don't stop. You're walking. You might have just tolerated that, which would have led to more bullshit, more disrespect, and you could end up being divorced or had a bad marriage, But because you learned the hard way, that's how I interpret it, and that's what happens, guys. So if you guys have a bad history of making mistakes similar to him, and let's be honest, the majority in varying degrees are, don't beat yourself up too much about this. It's a learning process, okay? You're always learning. When I was in martial arts, the instructors would always say, always a white belt. You're always learning. Even if you got a black belt around your waist and you can feel all badass and everything, you're always a white belt because you're always learning. And it's a process, And, shit, there's stuff I'm learning every day. And I'm sure it's no different from any of you if you're humble enough to admit that. So there you go, guys. So if you're on your journey, don't worry. You're going to make mistakes. Keep on trucking. You're going to be all right. But then again, if you are watching this and don't want to admit that you're making mistakes and keep screwing up, well, that's on you. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story you want to share, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.